Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
It's honestly ridiculous at this point. Not only do we have multiple huge brand new updates from multiple insiders surrounding the Blue Jays' pursuit of Kyle Tucker, but new reports that have dropped as this situation continues to get crazier by the hour. Folks, it is genuinely out of hand. I'm going to break down these new updates, but also discuss how things are getting very scary surrounding Bo Bichette following a couple of other updates as it pertains to his recent meeting with Philadelphia. Some details have leaked there, and you're going to want to stay tuned for all this and more on this episode, including one thing in particular that is very encouraging, at least. Make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video. Before we get into it all, very quick reminder to hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying the daily Blue Jays content. The season is about 74 days away as of the time of recording. We're all excited for it, but of course all eyes are on the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes. Quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Folks, let's dive right into it. Now we have a ton of updates to go over, and I want to start with the most encouraging one because we have some updates from reporters, some interesting things to discuss. But I want to start with this, and we'll start with the positive. Jared Carabis, an insider, a guy who does YouTube stuff, some social media stuff, very popular, especially in the Boston Red Sox space. He has come out and said, I feel like the market is the Jays. I'm just waiting for that announcement of a 9-year deal for Kyle Tucker in Toronto. Now, I want to start with this because there are multiple other reports that are a bit less encouraging here, but I want to start with this because it is pretty encouraging for guys to come out and be saying these things. Jared Carabis did respond to this tweet and say that he's not reporting that a deal is done to the Jays, but that he believes they are the favorite, essentially, and that that's kind of where the market is. That's what Jared Carabis said. At the same time, you also have Mets insider Pat Ragazzo saying the Blue Jays make the most sense for Kyle Tucker. But on the other hand, Tucker has been injured over the last several years, which means he could go with a short-term deal and an opt-out. So at this point, it's out of hand because reports go from saying the Jays are favorites to land Kyle Tucker to, of course, the Mets are super involved. Maybe the Jays don't make a lot of sense. So many different reports are flying that at this point it is just a little bit ludicrous. And so ludicrous that you can even see here from Ken Rosenthal. He tweeted this yesterday, and this had people fired up. Didn't mention in the stream yesterday on Foul Territory the Blue Jays as one of the big market teams looking for a bat. Obviously, they still could sign one of the top remaining free agents, but after getting Okamoto, I just don't view them as being as needy as the other 5 teams I listed. And this had fans livid because guess what? Legitimately 5 days ago now, as of the time of uploading, Ken Rosenthal came out and said the Jays are favorites at this point, and he has Kyle Tucker going to the Toronto Blue Jays. So all this to say, we are approaching a point now where a decision is going to be made, but the amount of reporting both ways is a little bit crazy, and even reporters contradicting themselves. It is a little bit out of hand. And it is good news, and I tend to agree with Jared here. I tend to agree that if Tucker wants to go long-term, the offer is going to be with the Jays. That seems to be the consensus. If it's a short-term deal, it'll be the Mets or the Dodgers, but it's going to be a crazy next few days, especially. The situation has just gotten pretty ridiculous, especially with the way that this free agency has gone, and it's now dragging out into mid-January, almost February. So let me know down below what your thoughts are. Would you sign Kyle Tucker to a 9-year deal? I want you guys to let me know down below right now. Comment yes if you would and no if you wouldn't. I'll be responding and reading every comment I see and kind of have a discussion down below. It is a little bit wild. But speaking of wild, let's dive into the scarier aspect of the day, of the morning, and that is that Ken Rosenthal reported yesterday that Bo Bichette met with the Phillies yesterday, and if I had to guess right now, I would say they're the favorite. Once again, we're bringing back the favorite narrative. Ken Rosenthal saying that the Phillies are the favorites to land Bichette and that they had a Zoom meeting, I believe, yesterday. Now, to pivot back for a second here, it was also reported that Kyle Tucker met with the Mets over Zoom, so maybe they didn't have a nice player development complex like the Jays did, But I believe that Kyle Tucker did meet with the Mets over Zoom. The Jays, of course, got that meeting in person. But for the Phillies here, they are favorites to land Bo Bichette. And that has really started to pick up steam to the point where I'm starting to believe myself that he isn't going to be coming back to Toronto. All the smoke has been taken off the fire, I guess if you want to use analogies here, from the Blue Jays' point of view, and has all gone to the Phillies and even the Red Sox to a degree. I think once they signed Okamoto, maybe they knew, and maybe Bichette's camp let the Jays know that, hey, we're probably not going to be returning just because of the price. Most tellingly, Jack Curry, very notable Yankees insider, came out and said the Phillies are the favorite to sign Bichette. And this is the most telling one here. It's not just from Ken Rosenthal, who can get things right, can get things wrong. This is from Jack Curry, a very reputable guy. He's even saying that the Phillies are the favorite to sign Bichette. And of course, the Yankees had some potential to get in there as well, though the Yankees seem like a bit of a disaster class right now, which we'll dive into later in this video. It is getting scary because I genuinely believe now that if the Jays aren't willing to give Bichette the money that he's desiring, maybe the Phillies will be able to here. And of course, they have the JT Realmuto situation. They have a lot of things in their own right to figure out. I don't hate it, at least if they get Kyle Tucker, the Jays. It is right, and I've been on record saying it. The nightmare scenario is the Jays don't get Tucker and Bo goes to the AL East. A great scenario is the Jays get Tucker and Bichette goes to the NL. An okay scenario is where the Jays don't get Tucker and Bo doesn't go to the AL East and ultimately goes to the NL, which is a decent scenario because at that point, you're at least not having one of your star players go to a rival. But we already saw Alex Bregman get out of the AL, so that's good. But I think we're in a mid scenario here. If they don't get Kyle Tucker, let's say Kyle Tucker goes to the New York Mets and then Bo Bichette goes to the Philadelphia Phillies, it's not the best thing in the world, especially with some of the water that Ken Rosenthal has been throwing on the Jays here. Now, on the flip side of things, I did want to bring up this tweet that just kind of gives some perspective here. It says, it's really cool that we're talking about whether they will sign the number one player on the free agent market because they're already over the top of the luxury tax threshold. What a change from even 4 years ago. And this is quote tweeting an initial tweet basically saying, do we know for sure that they're willing to dish out a third $200 million plus contract? Because no matter who they get, whether it's Bichette or Kyle Tucker, they're both going to be $200 million, and that's maybe where they're trying to be a little bit hesitant. Because you look at the lineup with Kyle Tucker, if they get him, I mean, the best lineup I've ever seen in my lifetime, the best lineup in baseball outside of the Dodgers probably, and you can maybe even argue if everything goes right, it's better than the Dodgers lineup. Springer, Tucker, Vlad, Barger, Santander, Kirk, Varsho, Kazuma, Okamoto, Ernie Clement, and Andres Gimenez, just dominant from top to bottom. And you can really start to see why it would make a ton of sense to get Kyle Tucker. Now, on the flip side of things, if they don't go ahead and get Kyle Tucker, you can see here, this is the Zips projected WAR from each position group. It's a hell of a lineup. Whether or not they get Tucker or Bo, they're going to have a great team. And you could argue they're still favorites to win the AL East because of the lack of upgrades that the teams have done outside of the Orioles in the AL East. The starters look fantastic, right? You can see the projected WAR there. You have Francis at 2.1. Of course, you added, based on this, a total of 4.8 wins above replacement with Cease and Cody Poteet. Varsho in center. Of course, you have Barger, Santander, and Lucas in left field. I kind of like the way that works out as well. If you don't get Tucker, you have Lucas and Santander that can kind of platoon. And then, of course, you have Barger and Springer in right field. Again, not platoon necessarily, but depending on what happens there with Okamoto and Barger splitting some time at third, with Okamoto, of course, taking it all. It's a fantastic lineup. Now, the one weak point here is the relievers. You need to get some more out of that bullpen. 3.9 WAR isn't bad, but it's not great. You want to get one more bullpen arm. But the moral of the story is there's a lot of room to upgrade here, but you could do a lot worse than this lineup. And I don't want to become complacent here, but at the same time, if the reality becomes that they're not going to get either of the two superstars, let's not be fully disappointed because they have a crazy team. They've had a crazy good offseason, right? No matter what happens, a B plus, maybe an A minus. I mean, it'd be an A plus in every other offseason, but you have to continue to push through. It's going to be exciting to see what happens because keep in mind, you could be the Yankees where reports are starting to fly that they're interested in both Tucker and Bichette, but they're also not actually players in either. The Yankees are said to be more on the periphery of talks regarding Tucker, with the Dodgers, Jays, and Mets seeming more likely for MLB's number one free agent. So tons of reports are dropping. Everything is flying here. At the end of the day, the team is great. The situation has gotten crazy. Let's just figure it out. Kyle Tucker, pick a team already.